Next up, a contender in the quarantine beard growing contest and a person who has had to explain too many times to various deans why I should not be terminated. My former boss several times, Frank Mulhern. Frank, are you there?
I'm here. You hear me okay?
Yeah, but that's not really in the Willie Nelson class that you got with the beard going.
Well, it's a different style altogether I'm working on, yeah. So I'm Frank Mulhern. I'm a professor of IMC. I've been at Medill 25 years. I actually arrived at IMC, like many of you have mentioned, because of Don. He didn't directly hire me. Clark Haywood was a department chair, and I think I was his first hire as a faculty member. But I was hired because Don Schultz had decided that IMC needed to have databases in it, and we needed to teach database marketing. So they hired me to come in to teach database marketing. There was only one problem. I didn't know anything about database marketing, but I knew enough about statistics, and I taught statistics, and eventually I taught database marketing. And I actually co-taught a course that included IMC strategy and database marketing with Don for 20 some years. But let me tell you the story of the first time we co-taught. The course was marketing, the first quarter course in marketing. And we decided that I would teach the first 5 weeks and teach traditional marketing. I had come from an MBA program where I was on the faculty elsewhere. And then Don would teach the second 5 weeks and teach them IMC. So there we go. So I taught my first 5 weeks. Now, people who know Don probably can guess what I'm going to say happened. I taught my first 5 weeks and felt pretty good about it, and I was done. Then Don comes in the next week on the Monday morning, and I went to the class to hear his lectures. And he says to the students, everything you learned in those last 5 weeks is wrong. I'm going to tell you why it's all wrong, and I'm going to tell you why IMC is the way to go, not marketing management and the 4 Ps. And there I'm sitting, and the students are all looking back at me and thinking, why did we have to go through those 5 weeks of all that stuff? And here this guy comes in and says, oh, that's wrong. And then a week or two after that, Don assigned a case. It was a B2B case about pile driver pads. I didn't know what a pile driver was, let alone a pile driver pad. But anyway, some gigantic hammer knocks this thing in the ground, and you have to put a pad on the top, and it was a pricing case. And Don assigned this to the students, and they didn't know anything about pile drivers, and they're asking me for help. And I said, I don't know, everything I know is wrong. Don't you know that? Then I was so impressed, and many of you have mentioned Don and his purple pen. He assigned the case, it was due maybe on a Monday. Thursday was the next class. He comes in, 85 students, everyone had to do the case individually, 7 or 8 page paper each. He comes in the very next class, all the papers are completely graded, all marked up, he did it all himself. And I'm thinking, wow, for a big shot scholar, researcher, that's very impressive. No graduate assistant, no hired graders, that was really impressive. A couple other things that people have touched on that are related. I traveled a lot with Don, and sometimes with Don and Heidi. I mean, Don and I co-taught seminars in Germany, Austria, Hong Kong, and many, many times in China. In China, we would go to PKU, Peking University. There's a very famous professor there named Professor Chen. Someone actually mentioned his name in the comments that are stringing along. Professor Chen is the second most famous professor of advertising in China. The most famous is a guy named Don Schultz. And he was quite renowned. It was kind of odd because at that time when we traveled, I had something happened on September 11th, 2001, not what happened in the morning in New York, but in the afternoon, Don Schultz got a new boss. I was appointed department chair, and I was in charge of all the faculty, and I was now Don's boss. And so he took me with him. We both got invited by Professor Chen to some world summit in Beijing at PKU. And we went to some banquet dinner one evening, and they had this big round table for a big Chinese meal. And they had this big chair that looked like a throne. And that was where Don was going to sit. And the rest, and I sat somewhere way around the other end. And after the dinner, they handed me Don's briefcase. And they thought I was his lackey, and I was there to carry his bag. And I said, and Don says, what are you doing? Why are you giving him my bag? And they said, well, we figured he would carry it for you. And Don goes, well, he's my boss. He's not going to carry my bag. So I gave Don this bag and said, here, carry this yourself. And the last thing I want to mention is a couple people on the faculty have mentioned that Don would throw bombs in faculty meetings. And since I was in charge of the faculty and the programs, a lot of them would be, thrown towards what I was saying. And one year, my assistant, Robin Young, came to me and says, we need to schedule the faculty meetings. When do you want to have them? I said, well, let me talk to Don because I want to check his travel schedule. And she goes, oh, I see. You want to make sure he's going to be there. I said, no, I want to make sure he's not going to be there. I'm going to find out when he's out of the country, and that's when we schedule the meetings. Actually, that is true, but it wasn't, it wasn't that bad. Then he would change his schedule and come to the, it didn't work. But actually, relevant to the bomb throwing, the key thing about that was it was always about making things better. Don was all about excellence and very, very high standards. And I actually kind of been a professor long enough to see, I think, what is a slippage of standards in higher education. Don would have none of that. Research output, teaching quality, curriculum quality of the students, quality of the faculty. When I came in 1985, we had one program with about 80 students in the full-time master's program. That was it. There are now over 700 IMC students currently enrolled in Medill. I mean, it's a monumental progress that it was the right idea at the right time. And especially thanks mostly to Don, it's continued to evolve and get better in the dramatic changes that are going on in our profession these decades.
Frank, thank you for that. It should be said, I was also undermining you at the same period of time, kind of in the same way. There were times when you were teaching in the morning and I was teaching in the evenings, and the students would come to me, they're very perplexed, saying, but Frank said this. And I would helpfully explain, well, Frank and I agree 90% of the time. And the other 10% of the time, he's wrong. So I just helped them put it into that sort of strategic context.
Yeah, so now I know.
So thank you, Frank. And next,